Srivasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskrityam Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jai Mudiret. Okay. Hare Krishna everyone. So welcome. So today we are going to discuss a verse from the 19th chapter of the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And today's verse for discussion will be verse number 36. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, so canto number 3, chapter number 19, text number 36. Okay. Tam sukharabhradyam rujjibhir ananya sharane nribi kritangya kona seveta Kritagya kona saveta duraradhyam asadhubhihi tam sukharadhyam rujibhir ananya sharane nribi kritagya kona seveta duraradhyam asadhubhihi. Okay, anyone would like to chant?
It was fun, right? Yeah.
Hare Krishna, would anyone like to chant?
Hare Krishna, please.
Yes, ma'am. Good.
Tam sukaradhyam rujubir ananya sharanairnuvihi krutagna kona seveta duraradhyam asadhubihi. Hare Krishna, please.
Okay, thank you.
I can try.
Good.
Tam sukharadhyam rujubhir ananya sharaner ribihi kritagna kona seveta duraradhyam asadhubihi. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Let's see, Madhav.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Tam sukharadhyam rujubhir ananya sharanen ribi kritagya kona seveta duraradhyam asadhubi.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Let's see, Navneet.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Tam sukharadhyam rujubhir ananya sharanen ribi
Ananya Sharanirnubi
kritagya kona seveta
Kritagnya Kona Seveta
duraradhyam asadhubihi.
Duraradyam Asadhubihi. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So thank you so much. So, so yesterday actually we read a verse from the 16th chapter of third canto, and all of a sudden we have jumped to the end of the 19th chapter, and you may be wondering like how come we skipped like 3 chapters, and the reason is actually so where did we come in our story? We we read. Like if you see the flow of the Bhagavatam, we read like how Diti had the desire to unite with Kashyap Rishi, and then that desire had, was actually not at a suitable time. And even though Kashyap Muni actually said, "Okay, I will satisfy your desire, but let's wait," but still she was so, so much overcome with that Cupid, with that lust, that she could not stop. And then at the wrong moment they united. So we read the entire thing, and then. At the end of that whole thing, we heard that how Kashyap Muni says that, oh, because you did not follow my instructions, because you disrespected Lord Shiva, then the child born to you the twins born to you will actually be demons, in the sense like they will actually create havoc everywhere, and they will be like very vicious, and finally they'll be killed with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? So and then we read how Diti became repentant, and then finally Kashyap Muni said, okay, because you are repentant, then the grandson will be a great devotee, and that's referring to Prahlad, right? So we saw the entire thing, and then because Diti did not want to give birth to the twins in her womb, because she knew how once they come out they'll create havoc everywhere, she actually held her pregnancy, and it's described that she held her pregnancy for 100 years. So it's interesting that what we read, which was chapter number 15 starting, where it talks about Diti, how she held her pregnancy, and then now in this chapter number 17, now the story continues. So what happened in between? Because she held her pregnancy in her womb, then there was darkness everywhere. And because of that, all the demigods, they approached Brahma, and then when they asked Brahma, what is the reason for this darkness? And then we read the entire narration of how Brahma relates to, explains to the demigods the cause of the darkness everywhere by first explaining the spiritual world, and then after that explaining the whole episode between Jai Vijay and the four Kumaras. So that's been our discussion for the last few weeks. And then yesterday we read the last verse of chapter number 16, where it talks about how the Lord, how he is the cause of the creation, maintenance, destruction. He is beyond the three modes of material nature, and it is he only, and he cannot be understood. His internal potency cannot be understood even by the great yogis. That Lord will certainly come to protect us. So basically the point that we were discussing yesterday, which I feel is a very important point, is that where Brahma is saying that don't worry too much of just discussing the problem, but have faith in how the Lord's protection. And this is actually one aspect of surrender. So if you see 6 different limbs of surrender, one limb of surrender is having that faith that yes, Krishna is there, he will protect me. Avashya Rakhibe Krishna. Avashya, for sure, Krishna will protect. How his protection comes, that I don't know. And that's why yesterday's verse was saying that even great yogis cannot understand the Lord. Right? So don't try to understand how Lord is acting in our life, but have the faith that yes, for sure, Lord is going to give us protection. Right? And then we discussed that beautiful point yesterday, how Prabhupada says that even though when there are down moments in his life, when we go through so many difficulties, and even through those difficulties, if we continue our devotion, our bhakti with our body, with our mind, and with our words, that person is qualified to go back home, back to God. Right? So that's basically quoting another Brahma's prayers from the 10th canto, Tatenukama Susumikshamana. Right? So we came up to that point. Now the next few chapters, starting from chapter number 17, is describing that how Diti had held these 2 twins in her womb for 100 years. She had full 100 years of pregnancy, and then what happened was the 2 demons actually took birth. And when the 2 demons took birth, then Bhagavatam describes, there are like a series of verses describing how everything became so inauspicious. And we can contrast this with the appearance of Lord Krishna. In the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, is described when Lord Krishna appeared in the womb of Devaki, when from the womb of Devaki, actually from the heart of Devaki, when he appeared, everything became so auspicious. The constellations are aligned to actually make the best, auspicious moment. And then the rivers, the mountains, the weather, the rain, everything was so perfect. Everything was auspicious, and everyone was feeling joyful in their heart. Now we see the contrast here where I describe when these 2 demons took birth, there were natural disturbances everywhere. Actually this said that, this may not be like a thoroughly researched point, but on the basis of, the theme of the Bhagavatam, I heard some devotees saying that if you see our acharyas, over the life, when they leave, you can see when they leave, there's actually disturbances that take place around the world. Right? So you see how even one devotee, or when the Lord Himself comes, how He actually creates effect all around the world, So when these two demons took place, it's described that how they were like heavy winds and cyclones and tornadoes, like anything, and the oceans, they were like high waves everywhere, and even the sun and the moon, like misty halos appeared around the sun and the moon, and there were solar and lunar eclipses again and again. So according to a Shastra, solar and lunar eclipses can actually considered inauspicious. I mean, here, when a solar or lunar eclipse occurs, then people are like, let's go, we'll see, and they'll get the special glasses to see, and they're like, oh, so beautiful, see how the moon is covering the sun, and you see the crown, and they talk of all these things. But the deeper meaning, the deeper, the energy during that time is actually not considered auspicious. If you see in traditional, Vedic families, then during, even like in Vrindavan, like I was once in Vrindavan, and there was an eclipse during that time, and all the temples in Vrindavan, during the time of the eclipse, everything is closed down. Everything closed down. Why? Because it's not considered auspicious, right? So one way people may say, oh, that's like your blind faith, and we are living in the world of science. Why do you believe this? That eclipses are inauspicious, and people may challenge. But how much do we really know? Our knowledge is so limited, and how much control we have over, situations that happen in our life, how we respond to it. We are so insignificant. In terms of our knowledge, in terms of our control, we are so insignificant. And just intelligently understanding how insignificant we are with actually our true glory, because that opens the door to understand the glory of the Lord, right? So anyway, so there are all these eclipses again and again, and jackals were like, yelling, and the dogs were just continuously barking, and so it's described like, the cows, like instead of giving milk, they were actually giving blood instead of milk. So it's like, so just by the birth of these two demons, all these things happen, and all these inauspicious signs are described. And then further it is described that how these two sons, they grew up very quick, and they became so huge, like mountains. So I think most of you here have seen Mahavatar Narsimha movie. If you have not seen, please see. But in that movie, they show how they very quickly grow up and become so powerful, right? And one very interesting point, that they say that, so when Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu actually took birth, so first person who actually came out was actually Hiranyaksha, right? So now if you see, when twins take birth, the first person who comes out is normally considered as the elder one. But in Vedic calculation, it is the other way, because the first one who comes out, that means he is conceived later. The second one who comes out is the one conceived first. Therefore, the second one who comes out is the elder one. So the second one was actually Hiranyakashipu, and the first one was Hiranyaksha. So Hiranyakashipu was the elder one. And then, here briefly it mentions about how he performed austerities, and how he became immortal. So that's described more in the 7th canto. But it describes about Hiranyaksha, how Hiranyaksha, he traveled everywhere, and he wanted to just like conquer everyone, just to give pleasure to his brother Hiranyakashipu, and he was everywhere. He was going in the fighting spirit. Oh, please fight me! I will defeat you, and I will establish, I will establish my superiority, and then that prestige would go to my brother. So Hiranya is described here. Hiranyaksha went everywhere searching for someone worthy to fight with. And when he went to the heavenly planets, all the demigods ran away. They said like, no, we cannot fight him. He's too powerful for us. And then it's described that finally once it so happened that he was in the ocean. He was actually traveling in the ocean, and he was searching for someone who's competent to fight with him. And finally he comes to Varuna Dev, right? A place known as Vibhavari, which is the capital of Varuna. And in that place, he actually comes to Varun Dev, and it's so interesting, like the duplicitous nature of these demons, that he came and he fell at Varuna's feet like a low-born man, and he made fun of him, and he said with a smile, give me battle. Someone will fall at someone's feet and say, oh, please give me blessing. And this Hiranyaksha was so duplicitous that he fell at Varuna's feet and said, fight with me, give me battle. Right? And then because Varuna Dev knew the strength of the Lord, he actually said, actually, I have become old. And what will you gain by fighting with an old man? It will not even increase your glory. If you really want to find a person who would actually give you a real fight, then search for Vishnu. Right? Search for Vishnu. Vishnu is the one who can actually give you a good fight, right? Who can give you satisfaction in battle. Therefore, approach him. And then Varuna Dev, while Hiranyaksha was leaving to search for Vishnu, then Varuna Dev actually said, when you see Vishnu, he will not only destroy your pride, but he will actually make you lie down on the battlefield. That means basically he's going to take away your life, and you cannot defeat Vishnu, who's going to appear as Varahadev. Right? So, and then the next chapter, so that was chapter 17. In chapter 18, it describes of the fight between Varahadev and Hiranyaksha. So earlier we read about Varahadev, and when did that happen? Because when Swayambhuva Manu and Shatarupa were born to Brahmaji, then Swayambhuva Manu said, yes, I will create progeny, but right now the earth is submerged in the ocean. So please, you arrange so that the earth is actually brought back, and then once it's brought back, then I will do my task. And then we see how Maitreya Rishi was describing the Varahadev, but when he mentioned that Shvetavara, he also mentioned about Nilvara, and that's how the entire flow. So it's so interesting that it's not, that Bhagavatam, like if you see how the pastime is flowing, it is not that the speaker is like, okay, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, this is my flow. No. Who is driving the conversation is actually the hearer is driving the conversation. Because Vidura is actually saying, oh, you mentioned this Varaha, but you mentioned Hiranyaksha. Where did Hiranyaksha come into picture? Who is he? And then he drove the conversation. And last, I would say 6, 7 chapters is because of this question. So it is actually Bhagavatam is so interesting that the person hearing is actually driving the flow of the Bhagavatam. Right? So this chapter describes, 18 describes, how the battle between Varahadev and Hiranyaksha actually took place. And then Hiranyaksha actually, he sees Varahadev, and then he actually starts criticizing Varahadev, and he calls him that, you're just appears in the form of a boar. Boar is such an, one way you see a boar or a pig, we are like, oh, such a disgusting animal. But, and here, Hiranyaksha is actually criticizing Varahadev and saying, you rascal, you have been nourished by our enemies to kill us. And then, so it's interesting that Hiranyaksha is criticizing Varaha, but our acharyas, because they cannot, every verse of the Bhagavatam is so beautiful, so they cannot leave a verse without something good about Vishnu. Because whole Bhagavatam is a glorification of Vishnu. So even though in these verses Hiranyaksha is criticizing Varaha, and acharyas take the same Sanskrit and break it in a different way, so that criticism becomes a glorification of Varaha. Right? So it is so beautiful. The whole section, because one way we say criticism, let's keep going further. But every verse is explained by acharyas in a different way to actually make the same words as a glorification of Varahadev. So I'm not going to go into those details, because then each verse is actually, we have to see the Sanskrit and the meaning. So, and then there was a whole criticism, and then the Lord actually, Varahadev, replies to Hiranyaksha. So that's again few verses where that is described. And then finally the fight begins, right? And then to describe how they're fighting with each other, and and then when the fight was going on, then finally the Lord actually was just enjoying the fight, because he likes there's a pleasure in fighting also. So he was enjoying the fight, but then Brahmaji actually comes and says, please do not play further with this demon, and then he makes a point that, Lord, you are infallible. Please kill this sinful demon before the evening. Evening is actually considered more demoniac hour, So he says, before the hour, the time becomes more favorable to Hiranyaksha, you please kill him. Right? And then it is described, and that brings us to today in chapter number 19, where it is actually described that how the fighting was going on, and how the Lord, through Hiranyaksha's mace, he had a mace, and then Hiranyaksha was attacking, and every time his attack was actually defeated by the Lord. And then Hiranyaksha created so many illusions, and the Lord actually cleared out all those illusions. And then finally, it is described that Hiranyaksha tried to squeeze the Lord's body with his arms. So he actually went and he wanted to destroy the Lord by like squeezing his body. But he found that the Lord was actually standing outside. He tried to capture the Lord, but the Lord was outside. And then Hiranyaksha started to strike the chest of the Lord with his hard fist. And then the Lord, he said, okay, enough. I have played enough. I had nice fun. It's okay. And then he just took his hand and just hits on the neck of Hiranyaksha, right? In the root of the ear, it is basically there. And just by that one tap, that's it. Over. Hiranyaksha is dead. So this is actually a glory of the Lord, that however powerful one may become in this material world, like Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, imagine their power. They have actually conquered the demigods. How much of a powerful we may become, our power is insignificant compared to that of the Lord. So what the Lord had to do, Hiranyaksha is so powerful, and all the Lord came and just like hit him at the root of the ear, and that's it. All his power, everything, in a moment, life taken. Right? So this is the glory of our Lord. So when we say Bhagavan Sad Aishwarya Purna, means one who is complete in 6 opulences. And one of the opulences is power. He is so powerful. All the power in the world, if you put it in one person, that is the Lord. What is the power of insignificant personalities like Hiranyaksha? Then if Hiranyaksha is insignificant compared to the power of the Lord, what to speak of us? Hence, all these past tenses is just bringing us to one point, that how we are insignificant, the Lord is so glorious. So the best thing we should do, just surrender to the Lord. Just surrender. Take shelter of the Lord. Right? So that brings us to today's verse. Right? So here it is Suta Goswami. He is now, after the entire pastime has been described, Suta Goswami is actually talking to Saunak Rishi, and he is making the point. So in coming to today's verse, he actually says Sukha Aradhyam, right? So Tam Sukha Aradhyam. Aradhyam is a word that means worship, right? Aradhana, right? We say the word Aradhana, and that also has the word Radha in it. Aradhana, Radha being the best worshipper. So Aradhana, Sukha means easily worship. Rujubihi is an interesting word which says unpretentious. Prabhupada says unpretentious. So those who are unpretentious, what does that mean? Unpretentious means those who are like simple at heart, with no duplicious, no pretension, right? So sometimes, like, even as devotees, that we could develop this pretentious mood that, we know internally we have all these anarthas, but when you see devotees, all of a sudden our nature, it's good to cultivate that positive nature, but, sometimes we just fake it. Oh, I am so pure. That is, that's not something that the Lord appreciates. Lord appreciates our honesty and our simplicity. So here it says, Sukha Aradhyam Rujubi, those who are unpretentious, right? For them, when they worship the Lord, right? Sukha, easily, right? The Lord can easily be pleased by those who are unpretentious, who are simple at heart. It said, how do you know what is the quality of a spiritual person? They say a spiritual person is one who thinks, speaks, and words, everything is same. There is no, like, sometimes we speak and we have a hidden motive behind. We think something wrong, negative, where someone is saying something and we are like thinking negative. No. A spiritual person, everything is in line. What he's thinking, what he's speaking, what he's doing, it's all transparent. This is who I am. This is, I have all these anarthas. This is who I am. I accept it. So that simple nature, and one who worships the Lord with that simple. Prabhupada in the translation, he actually says, to come to to that level means one has to be a spotless devotee. Right? To be unpretentious means a spotless devotee. So, Tam Sukha Aradhya Rujubi. Right? So those who are simple at heart, who are pure at heart, for them they can easily please the Lord. Ananya, but others, Sharane, who take shelter, Nribihi by men, Kritagya, grateful soul. Right? So it's interesting, this Kritagya, right? Gratitude, it says between all the material emotions and spiritual emotions, there's one connecting emotion, and that is the mood of gratitude. Right? So very powerful emotion to cultivate on our path of bhakti. Right? So here it is saying, Kaha means what? So what grateful soul is there who would not render his loving service to such a great master as a Supreme Personality of God? So Prabhupada in translation makes an excellent point. He says, every living entity must feel grateful for the benedictions offered by the grace of the Supreme Lord. You know how in the outside world they say like, count your blessings. Yes, count your blessings. But naturally, where does our mind go? Our mind goes and we always think that, oh, I don't have this. Only if I had this, I would be happy. But the point is what we have, if you just think, even having a house, car, having a job, having some financial, stability. How many people in the world have this? And all this, if we start counting our blessings, oh Lord, you are so kind. You have actually providing all this. Then immediately we'll actually feel grateful for the blessings of the Lord, the benediction of the Lord. Right? Therefore, Prabhupada gives a very nice power. Therefore, with a simple heart of gratefulness, anyone therefore with a simple heart of gratefulness must be Krishna conscious and offer bhakti to the Lord. So hence this verse is saying, where is that grateful? If anyone who is grateful for what's happening in his life, he will recognize, yes, there is a Lord who's arranging everything. And that person understanding there's a Lord, what will he do? He will actually serve the Lord. Right? So what grateful person is there who would not render service to us? It's kind of rhetoric question. Right? That means anyone who is grateful will actually serve that Supreme Lord. Right? And the Lord can be easily pleased by those who are unpretentious. Right? And then the last line says, Duraradhyam asadhuvi. Sadhu means a devotee. Asadhu means a non-devotee. Duraradhyam. But those who are unrighteous, who are asadhu, for them they can, very difficult for them to please the Lord. Duraradhyam means impossible to please the Lord. Right? So, yeah. Ungrateful persons are those who do not understand how much benefit they are deriving by the arrangement of the Lord. Right? So, I mean, like if you just think about, if you just think about our life, now if you can say our body, like we eat, and what happens, there's like a whole machine that works, from the food going from our mouth all the way to the stomach, all the energy going through all parts of. I mean, who has designed such an amazing machine? Then we breathe in oxygen, give out carbon dioxide. Plants take in carbon dioxide, give out oxygen. I mean, whose design? We never see like a big bomb and everything becomes organized and to such a level. Who's arranged all this? So Prabhupada is making a point. Ungrateful persons are those who do not understand how much the Lord is actually doing to us. Right? How much is that? So the point is, we become grateful. Anyone who is grateful for what he's achieved, what he's receiving in life, that person will recognize the glory of the Supreme Personality of God. Right? Such a nice verse. Okay, I'll stop here. 9:32. So I hope it was okay. Let's see if anyone has any questions. I know from yesterday that was one question, but let's see, any questions today? I hope the whole story was, it's very nice. Actually, this chapter ends with the point saying that anyone who hears this story, speaks about this story, meditates on this story, and actually this chapter ends with anyone who hears it at the last moment of his life, this pastime of Varahadev and Hiranyaksha, last moment, if you remember this, then Bhagavatam says you go back home, back to body. The power of one pastime in the entire Bhagavatam. Imagine the power of like so many pastimes, just one pastime. Okay. Any questions? Okay. And no questions, then stop here. And we'll continue tomorrow with Chaitanya Charitamrita. Thank you all so much. Tomorrow is also Ekadashi, so a nice day to be more absorbed in Krishna Katha, Hari Katha, Krishna Katha and Harinam. Thank you so much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vanchakalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namo. Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Prabhu, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, we will be reading which book, Prabhu? Adi Leela or Madhya Leela?
Adi first book.
Okay, Prabhu, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you all. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.